Listen, gather any survivors. We can provide medical assistance and shelter. It is safe. Repeat, it is safe.
Some games just don't work with thumbsticks. First-person shooters, for example, they're not exactly at their best with dual thumb twiddling, as the more strident of PC advocates will tell anyone willing to listen. And they're not great for strategy games either, and that's an issue this game tries to address. This is STORMRISE, an interesting real-time strategy game that tries to overcome the obstacles between the home console and the RTS. Emphasis on tries.
Oh, slow down, Coop. How many?
There's rangers guarding some small refineries.
I want you guys to investigate. Gary, how are you feeling?
Developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega, STORMRISE is built on a pretty interesting story. The human race has developed this technology that allows us to manipulate the weather. We can simply erase hurricanes, for example, almost like pouring thinner on a freshly painted canvas. But as you might expect from such a self-destructive species, something goes terribly wrong, and the storms rise. They're firestorms, to be exact, and they spread across the planet like a modern plague. This is the post-apocalyptic world in which Commander Aiden Geary finds himself, a planet where the surface is burning and the survivors are at war. I mean, if I were Geary, I would just go back to freaking sleep.
Damn it! There has to be another way.
Sir, step away! It's done.
So the story at least has an interesting foundation. The problem, as it so often is when video games try to mimic Hollywood, is that its execution fails to live up to its premise. The story stumbles all over itself pretty quickly, which is actually kind of fitting for a game with gameplay that does the exact same thing. Unlike its story, STORMRISE's gameplay is also built from pretty interesting ideas. Unlike some traditional RTS games, this one isn't about protecting a specific point on the screen. This game is more about multitasking, moving several small groups of soldiers from point to point in a sort of bullet-filled chess match. STORMRISE also has an interesting control mechanic to match. By moving the right analog stick, you can highlight icons representing any of your individual units, and simply releasing the stick then switches your view to the selected unit and lets you command them. The game calls this the whip select system, and it actually works pretty well. At least, in theory, it works pretty well.
Wait. En route.
So this whip select thing is the crux of STORMRISE. It's the feature the game prides itself on, and to its credit, it is an interesting attempt to make the RTS work better on a console. The problem is, when things get hectic, the mechanic fails to deliver. It shines when units are few, but in the heat of a large-scale battle, it feels a bit too ambitious for its own good. It's really hard to switch between your units, and it actually ends up feeling the very way it was designed not to feel. Clunky and unintuitive. Now, fortunately, you don't have to move your pieces one by one. You can actually use indirect commands with quick button presses, but even that comes up short. Like so much of STORMRISE, it's great in theory, but not in execution. Throw in some really bizarre enemy AI and the ample technical glitches, and you get a game incapable of delivering on its own ambitious promises.
Installation captured.
STORMRISE is kind of like that kid who was always at the top of the class, but when it came to actually applying his smarts in the real world, well, you can ask him about it the next time you dine at your local Arby's. This is a smart game that seems like it has a lot to offer. It's just a shame those offers aren't nearly as great as the game thinks they are.
Incoming Rangers.
Commander? Commander Geary, can you hear me? That's it. That's it. Easy. You're doing okay now, sir.